Here on the Spector Creative channel, I do a lot of videos about insights into the toy industry, since I've worked in the toy industry for 25 years and I'm also a collector. I also talk about emotional aspects, and today I want to talk about almost right is always wrong. And what do I mean by this? Well, as action figure collectors, we like to complete teams, right? We like to have the whole set. And it can be frustrating when a figure is missing and you don't have a full team. There's that one character, and usually it's the girl, what can I say, who's missing, and then you can't form the set on your shelf, and it's constantly a beacon saying something's wrong, something's wrong. And sometimes you get Toylands that do complete sets, and it's really awesome, and that's huge victory. But what about the right version of a figure? And that's what I want to talk about today. Sometimes we do get very lucky, and toy lines will do multiple versions of a character, and maybe the first version that came out is the one you wanted, but eventually, if you hang out long enough, you will get the version of a character that you want so that you could complete the team or complete the shelf or complete your diorama the way you want with the specific look of a character. So when is this an issue? Well, it's a big issue with action figures that I call one and done, meaning it's a figure that we're kind of lucky to have an action figure of at all. What's an example of this? Well, on the Marvel side, a good example might be Frogman, right? I mean, the chance that we're ever going to get a highly articulated 6-inch Frogman figure, like ever again, is probably not going to happen. So, enjoy this one. Or over on the DC side, Gem. The chances of ever getting a Gem figure again, Son of Saturn, is probably slim to none. And yes, Slim just left town. All right, so with that kind of as a baseline and establishing, characters that are one and done, the opposite is obviously those characters that are evergreen, that will constantly be on market. I mean, there will never be a time where you can't get a Batman figure. I mean, yes, right now he's at 7 inches, but, he'll get 6-inch eventually again. But Cyclotron? Yeah, probably never going to get another 6-inch Cyclotron figure. So, again, one and done. All right, so how does this lead to frustration in the hobby? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. We're already sitting around waiting to get a complete team. That's sort of the goal of action figure collecting. And yes, waiting can be the hardest part, but can also be enjoyable, and the payoff is really cool when you finally get everything. But what about those one and done figures? Let me use a personal example. Growing up in the 90s, I loved Darkhawk. He was my dude. He was an original character for the 90s. He didn't have a previous generation, and, most kids want something that is new and is their generation. That's why they get into new properties. So Darkhawk was my guy, and as an action figure fan, I was really looking forward to getting a figure of him. We never got him in the old Toy Biz line, but Hasbro did finally do him in the Marvel Universe line as a 4-inch figure. Although I must say this figure was more than a little disappointing because the wings always fell off, the legs fell off, the head fell off. He did not make a good pocket figure at all, and I really, at 4 inches, that's kind of what I wanted him to do. So he basically went away into the toy box, and I would sit around and dream of one day getting a definitive, awesome 6-inch Darkhawk figure. And lo and behold, that finally happened, and boy was I disappointed. I mean, it was great to get a Darkhawk figure, don't get me wrong, but one, he was released as part of a Guardians of the Galaxy assortment, which kind of is what he was currently doing in the Marvel Universe, and they had a movie, but this was not my Darkhawk at all. I mean, neither of these toys were. This was the modern version. I wanted the Darkhawk I grew up with, the one from the 90s, that was much more of, a Spider-Man street character, not a cosmic character, if you will. Different armor, different color scheme, different details. So every year at Comic-Con, when I would be there setting up the Mattel booth, I would usually wander over to the Hasbro booth before opening and chat a little bit with the Marvel Legends guys because, hey, toy maker to toy maker, and I am a big collector of Marvel Legends figures, and I'd want to see what they were putting on display. And a cool advantage of working Comic-Con was you got to go over to the booths before the show opened. Became friends with a lot of the designers over there after several years, and every year, well, it kind of went like this.
Lady, where's my spy camera? Where's my spy camera?
Every day for the last 6 months.
Where is my spy camera?
Where's my spy camera?
Where's my spy camera?
Here's your stupid spy camera!
So when Darkhawk finally did get revealed at Comic-Con, and I wandered over to the Hasbro booth later in the show, the designers, obviously who remembered me, were like, "Oh, hey, see, you finally got your Darkhawk figure. You must be, happy as a clam in the sea," or whatever expression means being happy. You've been asking for it for years. And I was like, well, yeah, but yeah, you kind of broke my heart with this figure, because Darkhawk's kind of a one-and-done figure, and this is not my Darkhawk. The details are so important with things like this to toy collectors. The wristbands were wrong, the way the wings were wrong, the visor was wrong, the belt was wrong, and yeah, Darkhawk's had a lot of armors over the years. He's even had different armors back in the 90s. He changed his armor about halfway through the series. But as even noted in, CBR did a great story about all the different armors Darkhawk has worn over the years, and they say that his most iconic version is the original. And the toy was not the original version. It was close, but again, details, the little details are so important with toys, because what we like to do as collectors is not only use these figures as a source of nostalgia and, remember the good times, but we want to use them to recreate moments in comic books or in movies or, from, still images from cartoons. And with this Darkhawk, I couldn't do that because this was not the right Darkhawk. Again, little details, the wristbands or, the arm clamps, etc., the wings, the color of the amulet and the visor is just, when you can't do what collectors want to do with figures, which is display them, it makes something that's frustrating even more frustrating. So, all right, let me look at another example to illustrate the point. Sorry, DC fans, that I'm doing all Marvel examples at the moment, but let's talk about Thanos, right? So recently we got a really awesome definitive Marvel Legends Thanos figure, although we still can't get him holding his Infinity Gauntlet in a grip, but that's not important right now. The first version of Thanos we got was a Build-A-Figure that shipped with this sort of post-Avengers movie wave. And, I guess since Thanos was being built up to an eventual big bad, he got the ticket to be a Build-A-Figure in this wave. But this Thanos was not classic Thanos, much like classic 90s Darkhawk. This was modern Thanos, who had more detail, more scribe lines, had darker colors, his head was a little smaller than I guess it was in the 90s. And this was another one of those things that just, the details killed me. And I was in a meeting at Marvel when I was working in the industry, and I mentioned this. And, even how they re-released the figure, this sculpt, as classic Thanos by just changing the colors. But to me, this was just kind of rubbing salt in the wound, because here you were taking a modern version of the figure and coloring it to look like the classic version of the figure. And I was like, are you trying to make a bad situation worse? Because this is like no one's Thanos. It's like mystery meat. It's not the Thanos I want, and it's almost insulting, like the desire I have for a classic Thanos. Now we finally got classic Thanos, which was great, but again, no closed grip on the Infinity Gauntlet, which I really wanted. But at least it looked like the Thanos that I grew up with as a kid. And, I bought two of them, with a $30 figure that I invested in twice, one for two different shelves that I have in my office. For years, I had used the Marvel Select figure, who, is just not quite the right scale. Now, Thanos was originally a one-and-done figure, but because he was featured in a movie, that elevated him, which is why he got the deluxe release. And the new one is just so much nicer than a repaint of modern Thanos in classic Thanos colors. These are the details that are just so important. And the chance of Darkhawk being in a movie, maybe he'll be in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. I don't know. I guess that would be okay and cool, but he's probably, if he shows up in the Marvel Universe on screen, this is how he will, versus being, the street Darkhawk. That's more of like a Spider-Man character, or a Spider-Man wave release. We're going to get Iron Man, from here to infinity. We will get him redone, remade, recolored, redecoed, reissued, over and over again. He's evergreen. He's now, been regulated to evergreen status. And even characters like Moon Knight have received multiple 6-inch action figures over the years. But The one and done figure is one of those curses of being a toy collector where you pin all your hopes in this release, hoping it's going to be the one you want. When it's not, it's part of this complete frustration that is this hobby. A hobby that's already full of frustration just got even more frustrating. All right, so what do you do about this? What do we do about, these one and done figures? Well, it takes fans, and not just any fans, but professionally installed fans. And what I mean by that is when you have fans running toy companies or brand managing toys, there's a major difference because you get those details right versus just someone being assigned to a brand at a toy company, which maybe they probably have never read, the source material. So if you want better toys, the best way to do something about it is to take a career in the toy industry. Mail your resume to the big toy companies, sign up, do a tour of duty. Believe me, it's the best way, and it's really the only way to be sure that these one-and-done figures are going to be done the way we all hope they will, and don't just continually break our hearts because they're just not quite close enough. I hope this video shed some light on some of the emotional needs of adult collecting and how those, almost there figures fit into this. If you like it, give it a like, give it a subscribe. It helps the algorithm. We all love helping the algorithm.